Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another one of our Retail to Publisher webinars. I am here with Erik Kulzer from Amigo, not Jeff Pinsker. Originally, this was advertised to be Jeff. Jeff is unfortunately not able to join us. He has a personal matter he's taking care of. Erik is one of the marketing coordinators for Amigo, so he's going to kind of pinch hit and come in and talk a little bit about a couple of different things. As many of you may remember, we actually had this webinar scheduled a couple of weeks ago, had a little bit of time difficulties and weren't able to work it all out. So back then, we actually ran a sale on the Amigo products that we're going to be talking about today. So if you bought any Amigo products from us about 3 or 4 weeks ago, this is a great opportunity to restock and get a good deal, because the main 3 games we're going to be talking about today, one of them is LAMA, which was one of the games that was nominated for the Spiel des Jahres this year. We're also going to talk about Saboteur Lost Mines in the Saboteur world, which is one of Amigo's best-selling games. And then we're going to talk about a new game coming out called Carnival of Monsters, which is a Richard Garfield game, which has actually taken me by quite surprise. I had the opportunity to play it at Gen Con, and it does not fall into what you would traditionally think would be an Amigo game, but it actually fits quite well, and it's really, really cool game. So those 3 games are going to be on special between today, August 19th, 2019, and next Monday, August 26th. If you pre-order or buy any of those games, you'll be able to get 52% off MSRP pricing, so a little bit better margin, which is always good. As I remind everyone, everything is on the table here, so any questions that you have, feel free to let us know. You can open your chat window and just type in a message real quick, and then if it's something easy, I'll go ahead and answer it in there, and if not, then I'll make sure to find a way to work it in with Erik during his conversation. But I think this is going to be a really good conversation. Amigo is a very well-established, long existing company that makes very, very good games, and I think it'll be a great conversation about the company and about these games as well. So with that, I'm going to take my face that was made for radio. I'm going to let it be quiet, and Erik, I will let you kick off and go ahead and have the floor, sir.
All right. So nice to meet you all. Thank you for taking the time to speak with me today. So like he was saying, Amigo is a 40-year-old company, or just about there. And it's a German company. It's the 3rd largest board and card game company in Germany. Europeans play a lot more games than Americans do, so their catalog is pretty extensive. They started off as a publishing company, so Magic the Gathering, Pokemon cards, and then moved into more board and card games. We, as the American version, started last year trying to bring over different titles from Germany and readapt them to the US market. So we're taking games like Black, Fruit Punch, Take 5, Excellent, and repackaging them, bringing them over here, adding different components. Gameplay all stays the exact same, and those games are based off of pretty dedicated and long sales history. So we're only bringing over games that we know have a proven record in Germany or in Europe. I'll quickly, really fast, just go over our credo. So on the back of all of our kids and family games, it won't be on Saboteur Lost Mines or Carnival of Monsters, just because they don't really fall into our general purview. But most of our games are kids and family, with some light hobby in there as well, like Saboteur, Carnival of Monsters, Lost Mines, etc. Cube. So for the majority of our games, we've got our credo printed right here on the back. It's going to start out with 5 rules or less. So all of our games have 5 rules or less. Carnival of Monsters, a little bit more, but Saboteur Lost Mines as well. But on the whole, all of our games have 5 rules or less, meaning that you can get playing them, get demoing, and get players playing. A game like Fruit Punch, for instance, you can see on the back here, it's just got literally 1, 2, 3 rules. Clack, for instance, has 2 rules. Buckaroo, 2 rules. So we want kids to be able to get active, get playing, and for the ability to demo the games to be really, really easy. The next rule we have on our back is European quality, part of our credo. So we're taking the same quality that the European game companies exist on. Really nice linen finish cards, nice poker chip style pieces, When we have components, we like to make them, big, nice chipboard so that nothing gets crumpled or lost. That linen finish goes to all of our decks. A game like Carnival of Monsters has both you can see over here, it's got both of the big board itself, which is nice chipboard, and individual player mats for every single person at the table. And then on those player mats, it'll have the different spaces where you play your cards and different directions, et cetera, et cetera. The next thing is on our back right here is fun for kids and parents. So we test all of our games both with kids at the table and parents at the table. We don't want to get into an experience like Chutes and Ladders or something where you're just rolling dice or you're not having fun as an adult and the kid is only having fun because the game exists. We want everyone at the table to be having the same amount of enjoyment. So most, if not all of our games have very small turn segments so that everyone can be actively engaged, or all play where everyone's playing at once. A game like Clack, for instance, it's just as much fun for a 25-year-old. I play it with my drinking buddies sometimes, just as a opener for game nights. And then my nephew at 5 years old has the exact same amount of fun. So we want the games that are in the kids and family area to be solidly fun for everyone playing them. And then the next thing is just the proven top sellers. All of our games, again, are from the German catalog, and they all have a sales history. And then on top of that, we are only bringing the games that are doing the best and that we think are going to have a very large impact over here. Any questions on Amigo itself?
There's been no questions that have come in over the webinar chat, but I will make sure to pop in if anything does do that.
Right, excellent.
I don't know if it's on your side or if it's on my side. I'm just seeing you and not the presentation, so I don't know if you've opened the presentation to share or not at all.
I haven't. I was going to do that right now.
Just wanted to make sure that wasn't the case. I know you were showing the icons and everything, so that's all good.
So I'm just going to run through this presentation that my CEO put together. So can everyone see that?
Yes, it is in the full PowerPoint mode, so you may need to switch it to slideshow mode.
Yeah. How do I do
that? At the very top, it looks like a little YouTube play button with a stick underneath it.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, bingo.
There we go. Thank you, Scott.
That's my technical advice. Is it looks like a YouTube button with a stick underneath it.
So this is a little presentation for y'all. 2019 Amigo product line. We're the number 4 game company. Oh, I guess, sorry. Number 3 and 4. Number 4 game company, Ravensburger, Hasbro and Schmidt. Number 3 card game manufacturer, Mattel and Ravensburger above us. Plus 25%. Top sellers in the market, 2018 versus 2017. Fruit Punch, Halligalli. That's the game that I showed you right here. It's really, really great one. 7 plus 21%. 6 Nimp Take 5. That's a game that's been around since 1994. It's a classic in Europe. We rebranded it as Take 5 over here in America and combined it with its expansion, X-Nimp, selling at a little bit lower price point than the Germans are. Bonanza, and then Germany's top card game brands. So yeah, we were founded in 1980, purchased enough bells in our games to put 218 on the front desk of every hotel in the US. Proven top sellers. 3 of our games have won the world's most prestigious gaming award, the Spiel des Jahres. LAMA got nominated this year. And in our US product line, we have 30 SKUs right now. So like I said, 5 rules per game, European quality, kids and parents, top sellers. Moving on to Carnival of Monsters. So I'll go over all the games here in a second, but I'll just give you a quick overview. It's from the inventor of Magic the Gathering. Each locale, each land has a different type of monster, sort of like in Magic, there's, the fire and water and earth and whatnot. It's going to be $34.99 suggested retail price, and it has a different famous illustrator for each land and character. So you can see right here, it's got some of the card illustrations themselves. They're really, really cool. Each card in the entire deck is different, so no two backgrounds are ever going to be the same.
I didn't notice that until about maybe 2 minutes into playing the game. And I think it was the Dryads or the Pixies, and I was like,
yeah,
it looks the same, but it's just in a different position, and it's like
right.
Filtered the right.
Yeah, it's small variations, but it is a lot of value there, and that every single card essentially is a piece of art. Moving on, we've got LAMA. So LAMA, the German acronym for this made sense, but we're not changing the artwork at all, so we kind of had to come up with our own acronym. So it's now parentheses, don't let llamas and markers accumulate. It's a real dilemma. So that's Jeff being clever. Nominated for the 2019 Spiel des Jahres. Oops, sorry about that. Rainer Nizia. 600 plus games published, made in Germany, European quality and tariff free. Again, going back to that, real nice linen cards, nice point counter chips. And it SRP's at $9.99, so it's an incredibly cheap game. Nice impulse item, just like what the heck we're coming up with as well. And then moving on to Saboteur, this game has been around for, I believe, almost 20 years now. And it's, world famous classic game of treasure and trickery. It's got social elements to it. It has path building. It's a modular deck build, or a modular deck game, board game. There we go. So no two games are ever going to be the same. It's one of Board Game Geek's top 100 family games. Strong brand recognition, Saboteur, what it is. Going from each different version of the game, that if it's a Saboteur game, it's going to have similar gameplay. It's going to use those path building elements and have a social gameplay element to it. Right now we have 3 different base games. So we have the Saboteur base game, $10. Saboteur 2, which is the expansion, which adds 2 players onto the player count of the original. So the original is 3 to 10 players. Saboteur 2 is 2 to 12 players and adds some different roles. And then Saboteur the Duel is 1 to 2 players. It's a solitaire game that you can play with someone else. All of those are $10. And then we this year came out with the Lost Mines, which is the first ever Saboteur board game. And it's had 50,000 units sold since 9/1/18. $20 game, enormous value for what you're getting. And on top of it, going back to the social elements and the party sort of style gameplay, it has 3 to 9 players. You are on teams, which adds a little bit of fun stuff as well. So that's it on my presentation side. So now I'm going to get into the games themselves. I'm going to go over just one in a line, or down the line basically. I'm going to start off with LAMA right here. Let me know. Can everybody see that?
Yes, colors come through. It looks very bright, actually.
Okay. My room's a little bit dark, so just want to make sure. So, LAMA, don't let llamas and markers accumulate. So, object of the game is to not acquire points. First person to hit 40 is the worst of the losers. Everyone else is a loser aside from the person who has the least points when that 40 level is initiated. So in this game, like I said, we are trying to get rid of our points. Points are exactly what they say on the tin. Each card is worth exactly what it is. So we've got a 1 here, that's worth 1 point. A 6 here, that's worth 6 points. The only difference is the llamas. Llamas are going to be worth 10 points at the end of the game. You want to get rid of llamas as soon as possible. The way that we do that is by playing cards. So it's a card game, right? We're going to play some cards. So if I have this hand and this card was flipped over, on your turn, you are allowed to do one of 3 actions. And only one of those 3 actions. You can play a card, you can draw a card. That's bad, you don't want points, right? So we're trying to avoid doing that. Or you can discard your hand and take all the points in your hand. That'll make more sense in just a moment. So, first round of the game, a card is going to be flipped over. First player is going to play, if they're able to. We're trying to get rid of points, right? So playing a card is the best option. I'm able to play a card that's the exact value or 1 higher. 1 higher. So I can play a 4 on a 4 or a 5 on a 4. In this case, if I play a 4, I'm getting rid of 4 points. However, if I can get rid of 5 points, I should. So I'm going to play that 5 on that 4. That's my action for that turn. So I'm done. Next player has a 5, 6, 3, 4, llama, and 2. So they're going to also play a 5 on that 5. I then will play a 6 on that 5. They have a 6 that they're going to play. Now, at 6, we've run out of our numbered cards. Our cards only go from 1 to 6, the colors of the rainbow. We, however, have llamas. Llamas act as both 7s and 0s. So in this case, I can play a llama on a 6, which I'm doing. And then this person can also play a llama on a llama. However, at this point, you can't play a 6 on it. You can only play a 1. So it's back to me. I'm going to do that. I'm going to play a 1. They're going to play a 2. I now have to play a 2. They're going to play a 3, and I'm going to play a 4. I've gotten rid of all my cards. That allows me to get rid of exactly one of my chips. Black chips are worth 10 points. White chips are worth 1 point. This is the only way that you can get rid of chips, is by playing out all of your cards. So if we had had a little bit different hand, I set that up just to be very straightforward and easy. If we had a little bit different hand and say, he was stuck with 2 llamas, 2 6s, and 2 5s. And I was able to play that card. He can play a 5, but I don't have the ability to play a 5 now, or a 6. My one option, or I have 2 options now. I can draw a card, right? Or I can discard a card. Oh, sorry, discard my hand. In this case, I don't want to draw a card because the amounts in my hand are lower than 10, and I could potentially draw 10 points by getting a llama in my hand. So what I'm going to do is discard my whole hand, at which point this player, everyone else playing, has 1 more round to get rid of a card, to take a action, basically, an action. So in this case, it doesn't really matter what they do. They're going to, however, get rid of the 5. They're getting rid of the 5 because if you have multiples of any one card in your hand, 2 6s, 2 llamas, 2 2s, 3 2s, 4 2s, etc., that only costs 1 of the cards, 1 card's value of that row, sort of. Does that make sense? So if I have 3 2s, it's only worth 2 points. If I have 2 llamas, it's only worth 10 points. If I have 5 6s, it's only worth 6 points.
Makes sense.
Okay. So in this case, I've taken 6 points. I have 1, 2, and 3. So I've taken 6 points, and I've left this person with 16, right? They got rid of their 5 as opposed to getting rid of one of their others because these are going to be canceled out. So getting rid of the most points at that point is advantageous. And they would, after this round is done, get those point chips handed out to them. And I would take my point chips. So the small amount of strategy comes in that you can decide to go out early, take points, or try and go out by getting rid of all your cards, playing all your cards out such that you can get rid of chips at the end of that round. And we're playing till 40. Any questions on that as a whole? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no questions have come in over the webinar chat. I
right.
can say I've had a chance to play LAMA in person, and the thing that struck me as very interesting about it is a very much a risk and reward type game. It's
yes, exactly. Yeah.
Almost like rubber banding, like, do I want to do this now or do I want to hold this for later? And it makes actually for quite a bit of tension in a game that's very, very simple. So
it does. And that's sort of the coolest thing about it, in my opinion, is how you said it exactly, rubber banding it is. I've played games where I thought I was doing so well the entire game, and halfway through it'll just rubber band and suddenly I'm losing and the other person's had 4 games where they had gone out and gotten rid of all their points. Now I'm 38 points behind and they're at 2 points, and it rubber bands back the other way as well. So it's a really dynamic card game, and it's really quick as well. A game lasts 5 minutes if you're like doing it for the first time. So anyway, that one's going to be retailing at $10. Cost is $5. 2 to 6 players, so it's a great game for families, for groups of people. Not too many card games that cheap have that many players and have the real smooth gameplay like LAMA does.
Yeah, for $10, it's a great backpack game. So
yeah.
Derek had a question real quick. When you play a card out of your hand, can you get rid of either a black or a white chip, or just the white chip since they are worth 1 point?
So that's sort of the strategy, right? Is that you can get rid of exactly 1 chip when you play out your hand. So you can get rid of a black chip or a white chip. So certain games, if you're vying with someone for the lowest amount of points, you might want to take points 1 turn such that you can gather more than 10 white chips, or 10 exactly, trade those in for 1 black chip, play out your hand, and now you have 0 points. As opposed to if I say had 8 white chips and I went out, I could only get rid of 1 of those white chips, so I would be down to 7.
Again,
does that make sense?
Ebb and flow type thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool.
So next up we have Saboteur the Lost Mines. So I guess first I should go over the basics of Saboteur type movement. Like I said before, it's a very well-known game and very, very well-known brand, and all the games coming out of that brand are going to have similar movement and play styles. The small changes in this game are how you interact with other players, most of that based on teams and the action cards that you're able to use. So in the base Saboteur game, there's no mat, right? We're just playing on a regular board, and we're given cards that have actions and cards that are pathway cards. And when I say pathway cards, I mean literally physically pathways. So this pathway gets laid down right there, right? a next pathway gets laid down right there. That allows us to move through because these pathways connect. The yellow spaces connect on that. I can't put that there because you can see right here that yellow does not go through. So that's the basics of Saboteur gameplay, is that we're building a pathway from a start space over here to a goal space. One of these 4 mines over here, initially flipped upside down so that we do not know what resources are in those mines. Maybe that will help a little bit. So this game, unlike the base game, has teams. So you can play with 3 to 9 players. Each team is going to have 1 more person than the other team, just for balance sake. That is because on each of our teams, we're going to be given role cards. This is what other people see. These, however, are what our roles actually are. So the object of the game is to acquire as many gold over 3 rounds as possible. The way that we do that is by moving physically across the board, like I said, getting to these mines over here and getting those resources, those victory points, the gold and jewels and whatnot. In each of our roles, we are given good dwarves. So these guys are on the yellow team, and they're actually on the yellow team. There's one Saboteur, name of the game, titular line. This guy is working for the other team and earns value or earns points at the end of the round based on what the other team had if they won the most points. This guy is a selfish dwarf. He is only out for himself. So he's trying to block off his own team and the other team, all while obfuscating that he is the selfish dwarf because his own team will try to block him off. Same thing goes for the purple team. We've got our purple cards. We've got 3 people are good. 1 person's working for the other team, and 1 person's just a real selfish bugger. So you're going to deal more of those cards out than there are players each time you play the game. So you're never going to know, oh, there's a guaranteed Saboteur, or oh, there's a guaranteed selfish dwarf, until your team sizes get larger. We have these start spaces over here. So yellow is going to start on one, and purple is going to start on the other. Everyone gets dealt out 5 cards at the beginning of the game. These are going to be both pathway cards, blockage cards. These stop people from being able to move across the map. You sabotage other people. The opposite of the blockage cards are the action cards that are clearing cards. These are going to clear those obstacles so that you then can move past. And then we have action cards that influence the board. So we've got a troll, I've got traps, a reveal card. This allows me to look at either a treasure, a mine, one of these upside down mines, or another player's roll. I also have the lightning bolt. This is going to remove a path fully from the game board. And that becomes important in sabotaging people, because if there's a heavily congested part of the map and I remove one crucial map piece, one crucial pathway, you would need to then have that exact pathway again in order to play that through, because all pathways need to connect at all times, right? So if this 4 piece is connected on all sides and a piece is taken out, I can't put this piece back in because that does not connect all the way through. So in a hand, on a turn, each player gets 3 things to do. They play a card, say I'm on yellow team, and I want to block blue team, purple team. Okay, I put a blockage in front of them. You can't really see that. I'm sorry, the quality is not very good, but this card that I played is a pitfall. In order to then, for one of them to get past the pitfall, they need to have a rope in their hand. They would play it, that would act as an action, and a token would be then placed on top of the card on the map, indicating that that obstacle was cleared, and then everyone else can move past it. So going back to a turn structure, we have playing cards. So one of those action cards, any one of the blockage cards to stop the other team from moving, or your own team if you're a saboteur. The anti-blockage cards, clearing cards, just good old pathways. So in the original game, there was sort of an issue where if your secret role was found out too early and you were a bad guy, you could be attacked the entire game, just relentlessly, and not be able to lay down path cards. In this game, we fixed that by adding the blockages instead of direct attacks. And so now every single turn, if you have a pathway card that you want to build out somewhere, you're able to do so. However, the next part of your turn is the actual physical movement. In the originals, we only had pathways. As soon as a pathway connected, it sort of assumed that your dwarf was on that card connecting it. In this one, however, we don't have that luxury. So if I've got a pathway built out like this, and I've connected it now to a mine over here. That mine doesn't get flipped over automatically until my character physically lands on that space, at which point they would get one of the resources associated with it, and meaning points at the end of the game. And every turn that they started on the mine, they would then get an additional resource card. There are 10 resource cards, treasure cards over here. Those treasure cards, once they run out, signal the end of the game. Also, if the deck of cards that we draw from to play our action and pathway cards runs out, that's the end of the game as well. So in this scenario, I am right here. I've laid down my pathway card right there. We're just going to pretend that it's not a blockage. I've laid down my pathway card right there, and at the start of my next turn, I'm going to be able to move into that spot. However, there's a purple guy right behind me. On his turn, he is going to play a troll card. The troll card allows him to place a token down that means that no one is able to pass that space. Your own guys, not your bad guys, not your own team or the other team. No one's able to pass through that space until the start of your next turn, of purple's next turn. So if this wasn't there, after yellow played their pathway card, they could just go 1, 2. Because after you play your cards, you're able to move up to 3 spaces. So 1, 2, okay, great. He revealed the silver. However, I had a blockage there. He's not able to move. Now it's the beginning of purple's next turn, and that blockage gets removed, that troll gets removed, and now purple can go 1, 2, 3. Upon doing so, they reveal that to be a silver mine. Silver is the more plentiful of the resources, treasures. However, it only goes from 2 to 3 points. Gold is the second most plentiful, 3 to 4 points. And then crystals are the most plentiful, or the least plentiful, and give you the most points, 4 to 5. There is, however, also a dragon mine. This mine, if led to by, bad luck, or if you have a saboteur on your team telling you, oh yeah, definitely go there, that's the crystals, and you flip it over, the first person to land there gets -2 from the victory points for that round. And so that's essentially the game. We have different roles that we're trying to obfuscate from other people while still abiding by them. We have pathway cards that we use to move around the map. In order to move around the map, we need to physically move our characters different places. We can block people from moving by playing these blockage cards. We can look at a goal, look at a player's orientation, their role, or look at the mines. We can block spaces. We can also trap people and reduce the amount of cards that they're able to play. And after 3 rounds of this base gameplay, when all 10 resources are run out in 1 round or all the cards are run out in each round, we then play another round, shuffling up the teams and the roles. And at the very end of those 3 rounds, each round should take about 15 minutes. 5 minutes later, we played a game of Saboteur Lost Mines, and the person with the most gold wins. Any big questions on that one?
Nothing has come through on chat yet, but if anyone does have questions, just as a reminder, you can hover over your video window and there's a little chat bubble that you can open up. You're welcome to send a question to either all the panelists, which will be Erik and myself, or all panelists and attendees. I own everything from Saboteur, everything, because Saboteur is one of those games that the card game, the base game, is one of those things that comes out quite a bit in terms of, hey, we're 15 minutes or 20 minutes in between, and we're going to play something and like dig it in. And the thing that I always liked about Saboteur Lost Mines is that it gives you that same familiarity and the feeling of kind of competing against each other the way you do kind of chaotically in Saboteur. But it does it in a much more gamery kind of type of way with the board and the movement and everything and how it works out. So it's been a really good round out to the entire line, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And there aren't that many party games for the strategy crowd, for the hobby crowd, that both involve a social element, a strategic board game element, and in addition to that, it costs $20. It's a huge amount of value. The quality of the pieces, the quality of the gameplay, how well it's tested. On top of that, it scales perfectly. I played games with 3 people, I played games with 5 people, and I played games with 9 people. It's the same amount of fun every single time because of that role obfuscation and because of the randomizing element of playing 3 rounds through everything. You get different experiences the entire time that you're playing. So in the first round, I may be the Saboteur, and it's not going that well for me. Next round, I could be a good dwarf, and it goes, beautifully. Third round, I'm a Saboteur again, and I've gotten my experience from the first round, and now I'm able to put myself a little bit farther ahead this time. In addition to that, 3 to 9 people for a board game like this is sort of unheard of, in my opinion, at least that I've played. And again, going back to that value, $20 for an experience like this is pretty easy sell. All right. Oh, did I see? Sorry.
And Norman just asked, Scott, the extra discount is only on these 3 titles. Also, when will Lost Mines be back in stock? Yes, the discount is for the 3 titles, so the Carnival of Monsters, LAMA, and for Saboteur Lost Mines. There are some warehouses that are currently out of stock for GTS, depending on if you are in one of the hub or spoke areas. The hubs being Washington, St. Louis, and Jacksonville. The spokes being the smaller ones. But some of those are out of stock right now, and we are working with Jeff to get them back in. LAMA and Carnival are both pre-orders, which are going to be releasing here very soon as well. So that's why you may not see stock for those in any of the warehouses, Norman.
Yeah, LAMA should be out. I mean, it should be shipping like right now.
Yeah, Jeff had said hopefully before the beginning of September, so it should be pretty quick.
Yeah, I think some stores just got their copies in like this week, so
okay.
You guys should be getting them very, very soon. Okay, so Carnival of Monsters. New game, Richard Garfield. Everybody knows him, everybody loves him. This is a drafting game, so anybody familiar with his other games, Super Bunny Kingdom or Sushi Go or trying to think, like citadels, sort of. Basically, it's a unique style of gameplay that you get to see both what other people are taking and sort of strategically position yourself based on what you see other people taking. However, it is unique in the card drafting space in that it's a lot more technical, I'd say, gameplay-wise, than a lot of those easier card drafting games are. So in Sushi Go, for instance, the card drafting is very simple. I get to draw a card, or I get to take a card. I pass the rest of that hand on to someone to my left, right, etc. There's no restrictions for the cards that I take, and there's going to be a lot more hate drafting where I'm able to take something because I see that you are building towards something. That same element is present in this game and is an effective way to control the sort of flow of your opponents. But it's much more important in this game to focus on your own goals than it is to try and hate draft from somebody else, basically. But it is possible, and it is effective sometimes, I can tell you that. I just played a game the other day where that happened to me, and it was not fun. My best monster was hate drafted way early in the game. Okay, so Carnival of Monsters. The flavor text for this is we're sort of a Lovecraftian society, you know, Victorian guilds and societies and whatnot. The Royal Monstrological Society is a collection of monster hunters that holds a yearly carnival for the public. We are monster hunters, we the players are monster hunters trying to join that society, the Royal Monstrological Society. At the end of each year is when the carnival is held, at which point the best and biggest and scariest monsters, that hunter gets awarded the privilege of joining. They only have one space. The way that we join, the way that we win, is by getting victory points. So each monster is going to have down here on their bottom right side different amounts. I don't even, oh, that's really blurry, but that one says 13, this one says 16. They go from 3, really, really base, all the way up to 16, 17, 18, etc. More powerful monsters, however, are going to have a chance of destroying the city, rampaging through and causing damage. So the game is about very finely tuned push and pull, risk and reward to every action that you take. If I draft something that's too powerful and don't have the hunter tokens to mitigate the damage, I could end up losing all of my victory points because of that damage caused and the fact that I will have to rebuild and pay the bank based on that damage. So, like I said, there's a year. We as monster hunters are going out into distant lands, bringing monsters back, displaying them. Our year has 4 seasons. Each season is consisted of 2 phases. The going out into the world, getting monsters, and then bringing them back and dealing with the repercussions of bringing dangerous monsters back to a Victorian city. So that's the danger phase. That's when the rampaging can happen. At the beginning of a game, every person is going to be dealt 2 random lands. These lands stay with you the entire game, and you're able to build on them by drafting cards. I cannot draft a 3 land. I don't know if you can see this. Oh, it's really blurry. I can't draft a 3 until I have a 2 underneath it, and I can't draft a 2 unless I have a 1 underneath that. When all 3 of these lands are connected, however, that gives me 6 points in dark lands to spend on different monsters during the drafting phase. We only start out with 2, and each of those 2 has 1 value. Each season during the drafting phase has a modifier. So in this initial season, the depths will gain 2 gold for the person who plays a depths monster this season, drafts it, will get 2 gold from the bank. And if they draft the most depths monsters, they will get 3 victory points at the end of the game. This card, if it was relevant to anyone, would then just go into your convoy and stay with you until the end of the game. So that's our modifier. Drafting is just like other games, except that we need the resources in order to draft monsters, the resources being lands. So if I have, at the beginning of the game, a hand that looks like this. We'll start out with 8 cards. I was given a Darklands monster that's really, really powerful at 16 victory points. However, it has a cost of 4. There's no way that I can afford that right now. I also have a Darklands monster that is only a cost 1. I could draft that right now because I have 1 Darklands land. It, however, is only worth 3 victory points. There is a character card in here, a staff member. Staff member cards cost gold in order to play, in order to draft them during your hand. However, they give you bonuses based on different factors. So this guy, PT Martini, every time you play an event card, gain 1 crown. So I actually would gain 1 gold back. Even though he costs 3 to just deploy, I would gain 1 gold back for every event card that I play. Event cards are another drafting card that give you a benefit. You do not need to spend anything. There's no cost to draft these on your turns. You're just able to draft an event card. I wouldn't, however, want to draft that event card until I had this guy down if this was my hand, right? Because I wouldn't get the benefit until he was sitting next to me. Staff member cards go off to the side and they stay with you the entire game. Next, we have a secret goal. The secret goal gives you a secret goal at the end of the game. Pretty straightforward. This one is going to give me 2 extra victory points for each Dreamlands, which is a type of land, different types of monsters. There's 6 different lands. 2 VP victory points for each Dreamlands monster that I have played over the entire game. So that'll be counted up at the very end of the game and could bump me over to winning if I aim for that goal. I also have 2 Darklands, which I could buy because I could draft because of the 1 that I already have. And the last thing I have is a powerful monster from the Eyrie, another land that I'm not going to, it's not going to be of any use to me. However, it might be of use to another player, hence the hate drafting, right? So, of these cards, I'm able to play this, I'm able to draft this turn the secret goal card because that doesn't cost me anything. I could draft the staff member card, but I would have to pay 3 gold. I could draft the ghoul. I could draft the event card, or I can bank and hold on to this really powerful monster for a phase, another drafting phase later in the seasons, later in the year. That's what I'm going to do because this one's worth 16 points and I'll be well on my way to getting 4 Darklands by the end of the game, hopefully. Again, risk and reward. The cards that come to me in the drafting phase are totally up to A, what got shuffled out, what got dealt out, and B, what other players are playing. So I'm going to take the risk. I'm going to pay 1 gold to the bank to bank this card. This goes upside down right there in my convoy. And now I would pass the rest of these cards on to my left. In the first and third seasons, we pass to the left, and the second and fourth, we pass to the right. The second phase of the season, the danger phase, happens when we've drafted all our cards. I've kept cards, I've paid to play staff member cards, I've played event cards, I've hate drafted a powerful monster, kept it by paying another gold to the bank because I see that someone else was going for Airy, and that's a really powerful one. And I've added my dark lands onto my lands. So all those cards have been played. Now we have to deal with the danger of bringing those monsters back into town. So in this round, I didn't draft any powerful monsters. However, later in the game, I would have eventually spent my 4 land in order to buy Nosferatu. Nosferatu has 2 danger symbols associated with him right here, these 2 red faces. The more powerful a monster is, the more victory points it has, the more danger faces it's going to have, danger symbols. Each of these danger symbols is 3 gold that you need to pay to the bank in the rampage section, the danger section, unless you have a hunter token to cover that face. You need to have 1 hunter token per face, per symbol. Everyone takes advantage of a communal roll that happens as soon as the danger phase activates. So in this case, that was really, really lucky. I've got all the hunter tokens I need. Each of these is worth 1 of them. However, most rolls, because there's only hunter tokens on 2 sides of each dice, there's 4 sides without them, hunter tokens are going to be really rare. So more often than not, you're going to come up with just 1 or 0. In this case, I have drafted Nosferatu. He has he has 2 danger symbols. I was only able to cover 1 with the communal roll, and I don't have any danger tokens on my person because danger tokens can only be acquired by event cards, and that card I did not draft. So in this case, I have to now pay 3 gold to the bank. However, I spent some gold out of my 4 that I begin with to play PT Martini earlier in the game. So now I have only 2. I'm unable to fully pay for my danger symbol, so I have to take out a loan from the bank. This happens anytime that you are unable to pay for any of your actions. Taking out a loan gives you 3 gold, so I would just hold on to my 2. However, this is worth -5 victory points at the end of the game. You cannot, however, pay the loans back. So this is always going to be worth 5 at the end of the game. This Nosferatu is worth 16 points, right? However, if I have 2 loans that I have to take out to cover his danger phase, then he's only worth 6 points, and I could have spent a lot less time and effort and just gotten a couple monsters that were worth 3 and had no danger associated with them. So going back to what I was saying before, the entire game is a risk-reward system, essentially. You know, it's every single card's going to synergize with different cards in different ways. Your plan at the beginning is going to change throughout the game based on what you are able to acquire, what you run across. It's a very dynamic game for that reason. Unlike a lot of drafting games where once you kind of get stuck in a rut, you're stuck in that rut. This game has a lot more dynamic gameplay when it comes to that, because you're able to take so many more actions aside from just drafting. And there's 6 different card types. There's different ways to win. you know, if I have the most powerful monsters, I may not be the winner because someone may have gotten all water or all depth monsters and they got 3 victory points one round. They got a bunch of gold's worth victory points. They have a secret goal that gives them 2 victory points for each depth monster in their menagerie. So even though they only have a bunch of you know, monsters that cost 1 land and are only worth 3 points, those are now all worth 5 points, and they've maybe beaten my 2 or 3 extremely strong, but you know, 2 16 cards are only worth 30, and then there's probably some loans that I've taken out, so that, you know, brings that down. And if he's got 6 1-cost cards that are now worth 5 points, he's at 30, and I'm maybe at only 28. So there's a huge range of synergistic cards and different ways to maximize your score at the end of the game. But it's all based on a risk-reward system. I can't necessarily guarantee that I'm going to get the lands that I need to buy the monster, that Nosferatu, for instance. If I only had a 1 and a 2 land, that's only 3. He costs 4, right? If 4 more rounds, or, you know, 3 more seasons go by, then I could never wind up with another Darklands another Darklands land, sorry.
You know, it's funny to me that Richard Garfield has done a lot of drafting games, some very successful, some kind of medium successful, but this one feels, at least for me, I played it at Gen Con, it feels top of the line in terms of the strategies and the decisions you have to make. Again, you have public information about what people are taking. You don't know the whole story. And you're trying to kind of fill in those gaps, which makes it a really
exactly. And with 2 to 5 players with 8 cards in your hand, even at 5 players, you're still getting essentially 1.5 views of all the cards that players have taken, right? They're going to go around essentially 1.5 times. With 4 players, it's going to go around 2 full times. With 2 players, that's going to increase a whole bunch.
If there's anything I've learned about playing games like this, these are the type of games that usually involve both a lot of strategy and a lot of laughter, because at the same time, you're sitting there and you're like, I think this is what you're going to do, which means you're probably going to do something completely different, which means
exactly
something different. But then you're going to do what I think you should do. It turns into one of those, you know, kind of Bazzini things of I don't know which glass to drink from, you know?
Exactly. Well, I mean, that's the cool thing about games in general, right? Is that it allows us this social space to lie to each other, to obviously trying to do, to really play with people's expectations of, you know, what my friendship means to you.
I like that. That's a great quote. I may need to like put that on a T-shirt. That's pretty good. That's awesome. So
yeah,
we haven't had any.
You guys, I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say we haven't had any additional questions come in, but just kind of follow up. Norman had asked a question earlier before about Saboteur coming back in stock. For anyone who may be a new customer at GTS or may not be familiar with kind of how we operate on things, we basically have 3 main hubs. And if you draw a line from the Pacific Northwest down to Florida across the United States, Linwood, Washington, St. Louis, Missouri, and Jacksonville, Florida are the main hubs. Those are the biggest warehouses. Those are the ones that are stocked the most. Those are the ones that have the most access to everything. Outside of that, there are also what we call spoke warehouses, which are much smaller warehouses, but they're more localized. So we'll have New York, we'll have Michigan, we'll have Arizona, Southern California, Northern California. Believe it or not, we have a warehouse in Hawaii. I keep requesting to be the person that goes out to audit that warehouse, but I haven't had that one approved yet. So, but as you can imagine, that one's very small. So, yeah, if any of your local spokes are out of any of these games, as we said before, Carnival and LAMA are pre-orders. They're going to be releasing here very soon. But if they are out of Saboteur or any of the other Amigo games that you would like to be able to purchase, the 3 that are on sale for this week, if you place a back order this week with your sales rep, you'll still be able to get the discount off. So that's really good news. And then obviously, if you have any games from the Amigo catalog that you're looking for that we either don't have in stock at your location or we need to kind of shift over to your location, let your sales rep know. We can make sure to take care of that for you. So that's not a problem. Awesome. Well, Erik, I really appreciate you taking the time. It's a lot of information. I got through a lot, but I really do think it was really good stuff. Retailers, of course, as always, thank you so much for joining. I do appreciate it. I know it's always crazy on Monday mornings and trying to tear away from all the work and get ready for the week, but do appreciate the time. Erik, thank you again for pinch hitting for Jeff, and please give him our best and tell him we hope that everything is good.
Absolutely.
If anyone does have any additional questions, you can always feel free to reach out to me directly. My email is smorris@gtsdistribution.com. Erik, is there like a generic contact information that people can use for Amigo if they have questions for Amigo?
Yes, there is customer service at amigo.games.
Yeah, that's right, because you guys use the .games, not the .com, which is
yeah. We're cute that way.
Awesome. I just put that into the webinar chat so people have that as well. We also, as everyone knows, we record these and put them on the YouTube as well. So if you need to go back and recapture anything that Erik talked about or follow up on anything that you wanted to get more details on, you can go back and watch that. That'll probably be later this afternoon, pending on the internet gods and how nice they are with upload speeds. But until then, thank you so much, Erik. Thank you so much, retailers. Appreciate everybody joining, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful day.